And so he's here in Shanghai.
Thank you. First run, John Higgins to break.
It's John Higgins against Haotian for a place in the last 16 of the Shanghai Masters. The best of 11 frames, the first of 6 to go through. The winner to play Shaun Murphy. And it's a welcome back to the commentary box for this new season to Neil Foulds. Hi, Neil.
Hello, Philip, and to everyone watching, from wherever you are watching, of course. Shanghai Masters is a very prestigious event. It's the Chinese equivalent of our own Masters. Tough to get in, tough to win, especially if your name isn't Ronnie O'Sullivan, who's got a great record in the event.
Yes, he's monopolised it down the years, hasn't he? Although, of course, John Higgins did win this back in 2012 in pretty dramatic fashion. He played Judd Trump in the title match. He trailed 5-0 at one stage and then 7-2. But he won in a decider in the end. Another one of those trademark ice-cool breaks of his, 61. Not quite as good as the 71 he made against Allen, which was remarkable. We saw his reaction when he potted the final black. It meant so much to him, not only to deliver under great pressure, once again prove to himself he could still do that, but of course in the process keeping his top 16 place. He did lose to Kyren Wilson in the following round, but it was an example of how great he's been under pressure down the years.
Yes, and of course he didn't play all that well against Kyren, but that's nothing to take away from the world champion to be at the time, because Kyren Wilson turned around a huge defeat by the same player the previous year in beating John. So yes, the clearance was absolutely as good as anything John's ever made to beat Mark Allen in that decider, but it didn't amount to anything else going forward. And yes, he's in the 16 just to keep a very proud record going. Might have some difficulty staying there unless his results improve, but of course in the case of John, he's still a leading player.
Just a reminder of the format here. We have the top 16 plus the next 4 highest ranked Chinese players and 4 wildcards starting out in the field of 24. And the top 8 players in the world get a bye into the round of 16. That's why Shaun Murphy will be playing the winner. Best of 11 through to the semi-finals, then it's the best of 19 frames, and the final is over the best of 21, so you've got to win 11 frames to claim the title, and that cheque in excess of £200,000.
Yeah, on the subject of Shaun Murphy, his cue has arrived. There was some suggestion it mightn't arrive. It was probably in a different continent, I think, to where he wanted it to be at the on the eve of the event, but apparently it's now in his possession. Shaun Murphy's cue.
Something of an occupational hazard, isn't it, for a snooker player? The danger of being separated from your cue when you travel overseas. Of course, it happened to Luca Brissell at the eve of the last season when Brissell had been out in America promoting his World Championship success and lost his cue, which happily was reunited with him. Would have been a concern for a while, and it's happened to many other pros down the years.
Yeah, I think in the case of snooker, as we see, not a great shot from John there. You know, people will say, well, just use a different one. Well, it's not quite like a tennis racket where you just use multiple ones during the course of a season or a match. It's almost an extension of your own arm, your own cue with its own characteristics. So a strange cue would render that player unlikely to play well. In the short term anyway, eventually you'd get used to it, but that'll be, might take you weeks or months.
Yeah, it wasn't easy. Clearly he was hampered with his cueing. He has failed to beat John Higgins so far in his career, Lou. They've only played 3 times, admittedly. Most recently the Scottish Open, that was over the best of 7. They have played over this best of 11 frame distance. That was in the semi-finals of the China Championship 6 years ago, which Higgins won 6-3. And the other win was a whitewash victory for Higgins, 5-0, in the same tournament the year before. So Liu looking to break new ground. Rather cagey opening to this frame. Both players looking to adjust to conditions.
Foul. John Higgins.
One of those
4.
cases where sometimes the in-off is better than the ball rattling in the jaws of the cue ball and coming back in to the reds. Just a little bit thick contact on that red for a safety shot, thicker than intended anyway. Now John is refusing the long red from the hand by the pink. I can think of many a player on the tour that would be looking to knock this one in. John immediately goes for a safety shot. I mean, yes, the black's not on. Hard to argue with that shot though, isn't it, now that he's finished on the long yellow. Very interesting to see what happens to the class of 92, which we always speak about every year. Are they going to be as potent a force as previous years? Well, they still are, clearly. And John Higgins, it's been a while since he won anything, but he's still in the 16. Mark Williams, Tour champion, pre-World Championships. O'Sullivan winning this and various other tournaments, including the Masters in London and the UK Championship. There's no sign of decline. But of course, they're all in their 50th year now. So surely it'll happen soon. Well, Ronnie O'Sullivan will be 49 actually in December, on December the 5th. But the 50-year-old milestone is not a million miles away for any of them.
Higgins had a series of near misses again last season. 4 times he made semi-finals, but never a title match.
Now, will he take the red on this time? Because he'll get the cannon on the pink and the black is available to him. He didn't play the red from hand. It's probably more difficult from where it is, but it offers more in the way of position. Again, he's refusing it. Tells me something, because, as I say, the game is very attacking these days, but John not willing to take on the long red. If he wasn't going to play it from the D, probably not from anywhere. He's found the plant this time.
One.
So it could be an opening. 3-ball plant. Those reds were far enough apart. So a chance has come his way.
Three.
Choice of red. This one the more difficult, but it offers possibly better position. Whether he can just nudge onto a red and be on the black to the left corner here is the question he's faced with. He's managed to avoid hitting the reds.
4.
This isn't the first professional snooker of this season, of course. We've already had the Championship League in Leicester, won by Ali Carter for his 6th ranking title. Carter, who beat the wild card Li Chao earlier today with something to spare, 6-0. And now plays Ding Junhui. That'll be some match in the round of 16.
11. Twelve. Nineteen. Twenty.
Well, he's happy enough to end up with a rest shot because quite an easy one, but it does get the pink back into play. I always feel with someone like Liu Hushan, he's a very good player, quite deceptive, I think, slightly inconsistent. The problem he's got, he's playing someone like John Higgins, who, as Philip pointed out, he's never beaten in 3 tries. He's playing somebody with a, similar game to his, but has always played it to a very high level, Higgins, so almost got to beat him at his own game if you're Liu Hushan. Whereas a more attacking, younger player from anywhere worldwide would probably know they had to go at John in the attacking sense of the word and maybe beat him that way, but Liu Hushan's got to compete
26.
with him in all departments because he's a match player himself more than anything else. He's not an outrageous potter or anything. Nicely played. Perfectly now on the blue. So this is an encouraging start for Higgins, I think. Very early in the season. Didn't play in the Championship League, but an opportunity here to start the season with a bang.
$32.
Yeah, I meant to say he didn't win a match in the Championship League, actually, because he lost
33.
to Ben Mertens and Artemis Higgins, who's the new player, and only drew with Ma Lang. So what I meant to say was he didn't actually win a match there, and his stay was fairly brief.
Yes, as mentioned, Carter won that tournament. And Jackson Page was runner-up, his first ranking final appearance, so another big step forward for him in his career.
$39.
Higgins was interviewed at the start of this season, asked about where he feels his game is at and reflecting on that World Championship when he had the great win over Mark Allen, only to then lose quite handily to eventual champion Kyron Wilson. And he said that he finds practicing on his own much
44.
more difficult these days. The drive to do that, the urgency to get down to the practice table and put in the hours is not quite as intense as it was years
45.
ago. He says he can do maybe 1 or 2 hours at the most, but he still loves to play other players. He gets more out of that. I think he's been practicing with Ross Muir in the build-up to this new season. But also made the point, Neil, that, you know, when you get to his age, it is harder to maintain concentration levels in the way that
52.
you used to. And, of course, at the Crucible, that is exposed, isn't it, because of the length of the matches.
Certainly, and you know, you can certainly understand his point
53.
about solo practice, because he's been doing that for, well, I'm going to say 35 years. It might even be longer. As a young junior player, you put in all the hours, you try all the routines, and after all that period of time, there isn't anything new that you can try. And you tend to find that the older players, Mark Williams I would include, who are at the top level, don't practice as many hours as they used to, because they get as much out of a burst of practice as anything else these days. If it's a quality hour or two, that might be as good as putting in 6 to a John Higgins who was a teenager.
58.
You've got nothing new to learn about the game. All it is just keeping your skills together and your coordination together. It's a good start, though. I do like the way that he's
59.
compiled this break. He refused the long red. He took the 3-ball plant on and has not looked back since.
This is frame ball, barring a snooker. And the crowd acknowledged that. It has been well taken. Got him with that long-range plant after
66.
slightly cagey opening. Lou had that difficult chance with the red into the left corner, which he missed, having been hampered with his cueing, and Higgins has
67.
indeed taken these nicely. Happy memories of playing in Shanghai, given the dramatic way in which he won this title back in 2012, when of course it was a ranking tournament.
74.
More latterly has become an invitational.
75.
Yeah, it was a great match, wasn't it? You mentioned that he came from a long way behind. He also had a 147 in that final. Trailed 7-2. You think of best of 9 team frame finals, and usually when someone is 7-2 up over after the first session, it's pretty obvious they're going to win it. But that was one that he managed to turn around.
83.
Getting ever closer to 1,000 centuries for his career, Higgins, just 4 away, so obviously it's going to happen this season. Could happen in this tournament if he plays well. Made 54 last season, which was pretty respectable. So there's been nothing wrong with his weight of scoring. Maybe the odd error has crept into his game, which wouldn't have been there before. And getting over the line in tournaments, which has never been a problem for Higgins in his peak
91.
years, has been more of an issue in the last 2 or 3 seasons, but this is the perfect start.
Yeah, just 2 more pots to get that
98.
century here. Taking within 3 of the 1,000.
$99.
Very well played. Never looks in trouble after knocking that plant in.
106.
Yes, and when he does get to 1,000, it may well, as you say, be this week. I'm not
108.
saying it'll be quite as momentous as when O'Sullivan did it, because it was in the last frame to beat Neil Robertson at the Guildhall in Preston.
111.
And the crowd went along with it. They were clapping all the way through past the century. It's a marvellous occasion, in fact. One of the great moments in snooker. He's lucky enough to be there.
115.
It's the last frame of snooker ever played at the Guildhall Preston. because it closed soon after that venue. It's reopened now, but no snooker has been played since.
120.
Two pots away from a total clearance to start this first round match.
126.
Just run a little further than he might have liked with that in mind.
Higgins
Wasn't too bothered about the black. That's a superb century, though, to start proceedings in this evening session on day one of the Shanghai Masters. Through to play Murphy.
Haotian to break.
Lou Haotian breaking off in frame two. Didn't get a look in the first frame. Had that half chance with the red into the left corner. It wasn't easy. And sat out a magnificent break, Neil, from Higgins.
Superb break, wasn't it? Missed the final black in the break, but it didn't matter at all. Yeah, an excellent start. He got to grips with the speed of the table quickly, and that's not always the case. Yes, there was a little safety exchange before the break got underway, so he could come to terms with conditions. But as we were saying, you know, maybe the practice side of it, he doesn't always get great motivation for, especially solo practice, but I think matches speak for themselves. I think the day when you aren't motivated by playing matches in an event as big as this one, then it is time to call it a day. John Higgins is not that person. Yes, it didn't seem like a safety shot into Bolt was going to be an option there, but now that he has, I mean, he's not got Lou Haotian in trouble. But if he pushes one red down the table, then John can push the other one away, which could be troublesome. That's why Lou Haotian has left both reds up there. But again, it's a bit of cat and mouse before the frame really unfolds. Yes, he could get through to the pot, and it was not an easy one. He was obliged to play it, and now he's left a chance for Liu Shan, his first of the match.
One. Six. Seven.
I mean, he is a good player, Liu Shan, there is no doubt. And I like his cue action. Sometimes it doesn't
14.
always look entirely focused.
15.
And he's had results. He's had a win at the World Championships before against Marco Fu in the past. Played there a number of times, including the most recent championship, where he lost to Sean Murphy. But he's not quite been able to make that next step in the game.
Still only 26, playing here at 31 in the world. Of course, that field of 24 at the outset today made up of the top 16, and then the next 4 highest ranked Chinese players, of which Liu is one. He's made exactly 100 career centuries.
Yes, he made that 100th at the Crucible, didn't he, in that defeat. Good shot there. Stunning round 2 cushion. Just grazed the red on the left, but basically slipped past it.
His highlight last season undoubtedly was at the Wuhan Open, when he beat both O'Sullivan and Mark Williams on his way to the last 4, lost to Carter. So capable of beating the best.
Yes, he can be a hard player to read. He doesn't give many emotions away, win or lose. That O'Sullivan victory, he just walked off, didn't punch the air. He takes winning and losing in his stride. But as I say, not to be underestimated one bit as a player.
38. Nine. $46. 47.
So the luxury of the red up the table that he can play on now that he's not perfectly on the blue, although he may have been happy to finish just short, given that the red is up there. Would be the perfect start if he could do to John what John did to him in frame 1, get the frame 1 in a single scoring visit. Would set up a potentially very interesting match. Oh, well, usually he's a very good rest player, and I was about to say that he is, but I'm glad I didn't put the curse on him. but I wouldn't have expected him to miss that one.
Well, to say that Higgins has got previous when it comes to winning frames from 50, 60 odd behind would be an understatement of significant proportions.
1.
That break against Mark Allen really was, even by Higgins' standards, special, because it wasn't just to win the match. When it looked as though Allen had done enough to get over the line, it was to preserve that proud record of being in the top 16 for 30 years now.
Yeah, I mean, the double that he took on, the red actually in that double to begin was not the most obvious shot. It was red near the pocket, and the double on the red was probably just about where that red is, just left of picture now, just out of shot, but he doubled it into the right middle,
5.
from just about there, maybe a fraction higher up. And, well, the world number one got no further in the World Championships when a lot of people thought Mark Allen was their idea of this year's winner.
Twelve. Thirteen.
Higgins getting Zhengwei Li to clean the cue ball. Clearly there's a lot of work for Higgins to do to win the frame from this visit, with 2 awkward reds to promote, but you wouldn't put it past him. Certainly a chance to get right back into it, just 39 behind after Lu's surprise miss with the rest just now when he looked set for 1 each.
Nineteen.
And that's the red developed, but of course, moving a red from a red, your cue ball can end up glued to the cushion as it is this time, which means your next colour is difficult. Yes, the red's in play, but will he be able to play the next shot after this pink? Because this really is an extremely missable shot from there. Didn't get close to it, but as I say, it's one of those shots you don't want to be playing. Not much you can do. You can just see the top of the cue ball. And he never got very close to it, and it should cost him the frame.
One.
Yes, he can get
6.
through to that red crucially. He wouldn't have wanted to play the one into the middle, not necessarily, but he can just see the red to pot it.
7.
So now, this next black is frame ball. The red that should follow it will absolutely guarantee it's 1-all. So yeah, he didn't win it with that first scoring visit, missing that red up into the yellow pocket, but he made amends here. I suppose the story of the frame is the pink that Higgins missed, but like I say, it was not a nice shot to be playing. Sort of 50-50, I think they are from on the cushion.
Yes, relief for Liu Haotian that the miss with the rest has not proved significant.
20.
Had Higgins got that pink, who knows? He would still have had to have dealt with this red that Liu's now playing, but it's academic at this stage of the frame. And so Liu Haotian levels this match. Battle is joined here in Shanghai. First to 6 to go through to play Sean Murphy for a place in the quarterfinals in the second.
Third frame. John Higgins to break.
So John Higgins breaking off in frame 3. Superb 1-2-6 break in the opening frame, but with the chance to get right back in the second, he missed that very awkward pink, queuing tight to the side cushion, and Liu Haotian grateful, having missed with the rest, to mop up the balls he needed to level it up. So 1 each, first to 6 to go through. In this, their 4th meeting, Higgins leads 3-0.
It's a beautiful long red, sending the cue ball some way up the table, but of course once the pot goes in, it's not as important as all that. And he avoided the other reds. It's very neatly done from Higgins.
Five. 6.
Now, he might be winding himself up here to play blue into the pink at pace to get the reds open. He might even be hopeful in freeing the black somehow with the reds hitting into the black. They bring everything into play here. Well, the red and the black haven't moved, but most other things have. I think he's all right.
11.
Quite a decent split. As you can see, there's a path through to the red to the right corner here. And he can stun up for the blue as well, so it's encouraging.
Oh.
Still a problem, of course, that the red and the black are tied up. But I think he can make do with other reds and colours for now. I think years ago there was a suggestion that you can't easily win a frame with the black out of play, but the standard of break building and scoring over the years has proved otherwise. You can still engineer a break without the black being the focal point.
Eighteen.
Can't think that he meant that little kiss, quite honestly. I'm sure he meant to avoid the red, but he can run this through, and the red to left middle. He's already looked at the angle. He'd like to be straightish on it. That's all right. So he's recovered, going slightly out of position.
23. 24.
The early frames of that match against Kyren Wilson, which Kyren went on to win and become champion in the spring, my memory of it was the standard of safety play from Kyren Wilson, the highest I've ever seen from him. Kept putting John in a lot of trouble and on a lot of the early frames. John battled valiantly, but I think maybe the effects of the previous match played their part. Now he's trying to hold the spot here. Has he done so? Because he looked and noticed that the pink spot is available. Yeah, just about
29.
achieved his goal.
Yes, Kyren Wilson was outstanding in all facets of the game in that match against Higgins. All the more impressive, as you mentioned, given what Higgins had done to Wilson at the Crucible the year before. Absolutely demolished him. And Higgins was quick to acknowledge that he'd been comprehensively outplayed and that Kyren was thoroughly deserving of becoming world champion. He was the best player.
36.
Simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, he was the best player coming into the semi-finals. He was the best player and the last of the real big guns standing, wasn't he? Obviously, the players that remain, including Jack Jones, very fine players, but you know, Kyren must have felt the pressure of people thinking, well, he's going to win it now, and lo and behold, he went on to do so.
And he will play the winner of the match going on Table 2 at the moment and on Discovery Plus. Barry Hawkins, Show You Long, one each after Show's 116 break in frame 2.
$42. 43. 48. 49.
John not pleased with that. Didn't mean to finish just off straight. If he was going to finish off straight, he wanted to be on the other side, lower down with the cue ball. Put it that way. Well, he'll be more annoyed now than ever, because actually he played a slightly poor positional shot the previous shot, and then
54.
the nudge. I mean, I'm surprised he ended up playing that. He could keep the break going with the red along the cushion, but it could be that he doesn't quite get the frame one here if he isn't careful, when he should have done.
It was a good pot because it was a
55.
thin cut, never easy, particularly with the rest, but inevitably Higgins, in focusing on the pot there, was losing a bit of control with the cue ball.
Yes, and now if he takes the brown on, he's not absolutely guaranteed where the break will go, because getting onto a red from it, it will not be simple. He wouldn't really want to try and screw onto the two reds on the right cushion. Now they're there, he'd like to leave them there. Looks like he is playing the pot here, taking the cue ball round the angles. Red to left middle to keep the break going. So he's done well here,
9.
because it did appear the break was about to dry up.
And this red will suffice. Lou would need a snooker if it goes in. Well, that's very good from Higgins, because it looked as though he might have to settle for a 50-plus point lead, but not the clinching of the frame at this visit. That now looks inevitable with this pink. One more red to make absolutely sure. He's queuing well. Yes, he missed the difficult pink in the second frame, but that was one of
66.
those that where unless you hit it absolutely perfectly, they're not going to drop. Aside from that, it's been pretty impressive stuff from the veteran so far.
67. $73. touching ball. John Higgins, 73 in the frame.
Very nicely done from John Higgins. He did so well to keep the break going, though, when it looked as though it might have come to an end. Clears the table. Magnificent stuff. 2-1 to him. You can watch it on Discovery Plus. So, John Higgins, 2-1 to the good, looking to forge a two-frame cushion going into the break. Break of 73, and the way he finished it when it looked as though things were going wrong was impressive. A couple of excellent recovery shots to get over the line.
Well, that's a poor shot, because the double kiss looked on, and it was on. It's one of those that's hard to avoid when the two balls are lined up basically for the pocket. This double kiss, you play it 20 times and you get the double kiss every one of them. And if you can get an angle on the blue, it could be almost a repeat dose of the previous frame. No.
What?
Unable to get back for the blue, but the same applies to the shot on the green. One cushion into what is a big target. So they have to force this, but as you can see how wide the split of reds are, he's going to have to be playing the green here. I'd expect this to be played at a lot of pace.
4. Five.
Yeah, it's a key red.
Well, as mentioned, Higgins has said that he doesn't practice as much as once he did, but whatever practice he has been doing in the build-up to this new season appears to have been paying off, because the way he's queuing today on the match table is
12.
terrific. If he can maintain these standards for this season, he'll be pretty happy.
13. Okay. $20. 21. 把你们手机调成静音。
Yes, he couldn't quite avoid hitting the red on the way back from the cushion.
28.
But the red at the bottom of the bunch to the left there, that will pop to the right corner, and he'll be going through other reds. So this becomes an important shot if he can execute this right, the pot and position. Very good. Nice control of the cue ball there, you feel. Just bringing 2 or 3 other reds into play also.
$33.
Don't know if the black pot's to the right corner. I suspect that it doesn't. I'm sure the red's in the way. He'll have to play around the back of the black and play the black into the same pocket as the red he's taking now.
$34. $41.
This time up the table here, can't quite hold very easily for the black. Playing up for the blue, I suspect.
$42.
Yes, he's certainly scoring well. Get the feeling he won't entertain the thought of going into these reds from this shot. He's got 2 or 3 reds in play, and also that just if he hits the pink half ball, the cue ball might end up coming away from the bunch. Unless he's got no other shot, I think he'll try something else but the split.
$47.
Just awkwardly placed again, but even then, now that he hit that red, he can pot it to middle.
$48.
Well, this has been a close to immaculate performance to this point from Higgins. That one miss pot, a very difficult one on the pink in the second frame. Aside from that, he's been very much on point, getting close to the winning line for a 3-1 lead in this frame.
$55. $56. $63. $64.
Yeah, nicely played that last red, and now he is on the brink of not only another frame, but potentially another century break, and inching closer to the 1,000. The flame is 1, barring snookers, and I wouldn't expect
71.
John to miss here. He's got red to right middle, and then the century can be in his thoughts, in his eye line, I suppose. It's been very high quality, these 4 frames. I can think of a couple of balls missed, but the break building is excellent. Mostly from Higgins.
The calibre in both matches has been outstanding. Back-to-back centuries from Zhou Yulong, 116, 126. Higgins with his own 126 to start this match. 73 to make it 2-1. And Liu Haotian contemplating the certainty now of a 3-1 deficit at the interval.
78.
He's not played poorly by any means, but
79.
Higgins has been outstanding. And would probably prefer to carry on without an interval given the rhythm he's in. It's all part of the game, though. Crowd have appreciated the quality of the snooker in this little mini session. There's another fine positional shot from Higgins, opening up the remaining reds. They're all there for him now.
87.
For another big century. conditions seem very good. Stephen Hallworth on commentary in our earlier session made the point that he thought
94.
playing conditions were particularly good, and perhaps quite often in China you can have slightly heavier conditions, but that doesn't
95.
appear to have been the case so far today.
Yeah, it can vary. Stephen is absolutely right. Over the years, we've seen tables in Asia playing sometimes a little damp, the air conditioning playing havoc with the tables. Of course, without it, it would be too humid. So, you know, it's a fine balance. But as you rightly say, this the bed of the table looks to be playing a dream here. And the pockets aren't small, but I think these are going into the middle of the pocket, so it's hard to tell really how generous or not so they are. What John is doing,
-8.
he's playing quite beautifully here.
We mentioned earlier that there's a distinct possibility that Higgins could pass the 1,000 century mark this week. The way he's going, he could do it today. He's now going to be 2 away from the magical
13.
4 figures. Liu Haotian can only sit and admire at the moment and look to regroup during the interval. But when your opponent's playing as Higgins is, there's not a great deal to be done.
Well, 22.
It's just been a lovely break. With mostly great control. The odd time he's had to just play a slightly recovering shot. Otherwise, superb.
A 135 total clearance from John Higgins. A reminder of just why he is one of the greatest players ever to pick up a cue. One in Shanghai, and Liu Haotian with a lot to do. Not just that he's 3-1 behind, but 3-1 behind to one of the game's legends, playing close to the very apex of his game so far today. Outstanding stuff from Higgins. I only recall him missing 1 ball in line play. That was the pink in the second frame, which was very difficult. Aside from that, he's been immaculate. Liu hasn't done a lot wrong himself. 1/2 century from him to win that frame. Otherwise, he's been warming his chair.
That's ill-directed and some. It's quite a big mistake, actually, because you see players from that position rolling into the bunch quite comfortably, but, I mean, it bounced more squarely off the cushion than he ever thought it would. So that's not the resumption he wanted. Let John in again. I mean, there is a real chance that he could get to 1,000 today, as Philip pointed out. He was 4 short before the match. He's made 2 centuries. You just never know at this game. It's hard to suggest he'll make one here, but we're seeing plenty of big breaks. The tables are conducive to good scoring, and the Wizard of Wishaw is
6.
It looks in great form. All of those things might add up to a fairly momentous afternoon's play. Of course, the priority is always got a match to win. He doesn't really care if he makes 4 or 5 more 50 breaks, if that takes him to the match. That is obviously his #1 aim. Certainly John made the point of the fact that he is 16, that he has got to play here in Shanghai. He's done it over the years without ever looking like he's going to be out of the 16, but if anything, it might have just given him a bit more of an appreciation of his position in the game to still be there. Anyway, that is not bad. It first of all looked like he'd knocked the red in,
12.
but it really hasn't done that. And a couple of the reds have gone round into potable positions now.
That's actually exactly the point Higgins made after the World Championship, that what happened to him there. Brilliant win over Mark Allen, the huge adrenaline rush of making that 71 clearance from the brink of defeat to hold on to his top 16 place, and then
13.
the come down against Kyron Wilson was just a stark reminder of how incredibly difficult this sport is, and particularly the World Championship and the demands it makes, especially as you get older. And Higgins said it just
18.
made me reflect a bit more on what I've achieved in the game, and that I should be proud of the fact that I won the World Championship 4 times and I'm still trying to win a 5th. And Higgins said that perhaps he hasn't given himself enough of a pat on the back about what he's achieved in the game. But in the meantime, he's still, as he is proving amply today, extremely dangerous, playing at a very high standard. So who knows what he can still achieve in the game. He's clearly still motivated. He's always looking for those little marginal gains. He's made a slight alteration, hasn't he, Neil, in more recent times with his cue action. He seems to be cueing closer to the cue ball. The bridge has been shortened a little. He's just looking for those little fine margins that might help his game at this stage of his career.
Indeed. But, you know, he isn't someone over the years who has made many changes to his game, so only now has he reached that point. Some players are completely tinkering with things all the while, usually for the better, but John hasn't really spent all of his life with a coach overseeing his game.
34.
Yep.
A few things have happened, as you say, that have just made changes, very subtle changes, I might add.
Yeah, another thing he's experimented with recently that he hadn't previously done was look at the psychological
35.
side of the game, and working with someone to help with what goes on between the ears, which of course is a massive part of this game and something that Higgins probably didn't have to think about when he was in his absolute pomp, because he was a serial winner. That hasn't been the case in more recent seasons. He's got close without winning the big titles.
Yes, he's away again here.
42.
Chance to extend his lead, extend the break that he's on to possibly 3 figures. I think a few
43.
defeats along the way have been the reason he's sought a little bit of help with his mental side of his game. He's had a few crushing losses that have hurt him. A lot of players experienced them maybe before John ever did, because he doesn't take losing very well. He's very gracious, but deep down I know it hurts him. You wouldn't really expect anything else.
Apparently a lot of people have come up to him since the World Championship and asked him about the clearance he made against Mark Allen, and
50.
it was incredible. But for Higgins it was of no consolation, because, as he said himself, yeah, okay, it was a fine clearance, I won the match, I stayed in the 16, but getting to the quarterfinals of the Crucible is not success for me.
51.
And that just shows that he still has a great desire to not only go deep in these biggest events, but also to come out with the trophy at the end of it, which is a positive thing for Higgins, because it shows there's still plenty of competitive snooker in him. If he has that mindset, he's not just there to make up the numbers or compete, he wants to win.
Well, you've got to get the positional side of this right. It looks like he's absolutely perfect there, because
58.
there weren't that many options open to him. I think he is on a red. He had to take the cue ball across to center table quite a bit to be sure of being on one. That was a very fine positional shot, that last one. You can see that he had no leeway whatsoever.
John Higgins.
Played it with a little bit of right-hand side in
58.
the end, and it just pushed away, but I still expected him to get it.
Clearly so did the crowd. Big gasp of disbelief. Well, that's the first misstep Higgins has made since he missed that awkward pink in frame 2.
1.
An unexpected reprieve for Liu. What can he do with it? There's still plenty of points there. 63 behind.
Just looking back at that shot that John played there, from our angle, I thought he could pot it without using any right-hand side. I know he's the man right on the scene, but if he'd have played it plain ball, I get the feeling he would have potted that without hitting the other red. But the shot's gone now, and John will hope the frame hasn't gone as well.
Eight. Nine.
That's the problem with that shot. You play a delicate cannon and you can't hit it hard because the cue will just
14.
slides off the bunch and goes close to a corner pocket, but you hit the target, you end up on top of a ball, and now the break is over. He's a bit unlucky there, I think, Liu Shan. I think that you play that 10 times as well as he did, you'd be on a red more often than not. On this occasion, though, he can only play safe from here.
Liu Haotian. 14.
Difficulty getting up the table. I think John faced with a similar problem to Liu had, that he's finished so close to the reds, you can't escape back to bolt very easily. That's why Liu Shan played a bit of a nothing shot. He didn't have anything else he could do. Can John get the cue ball away from the reds? And the answer is not really, not up the table anyway. At least that little impasse has now come to an end, because Liu Shan will certainly play safe heading the cue ball into bolt now. 50 behind with the balls where they are, not necessarily too big a lead, because nothing is safe, and that is quite a good safety shot. Frame is not over by any means.
Well, he's had a major result there, Higgins. I think he caught that a little bit thicker than intended, but look at where the cue balls landed for Liu Shan. Very, very awkward.
Yeah, sometimes these are worse than being on the other side of the yellow and being fully snookered. If he can just get his cue to the ball without going over the top of the yellow, he might be all right. Either way, it's a fairly unpleasant shot to be left. Got to keep it safe or the frame is gone. That's a good shot. I don't think you could have expected much more than that.
It's clearly a very significant frame from Liu's point of view. The difference between being 3 behind and Higgins being within 2 of victory, and just the 1 frame for Higgins. A substantial difference. 50 the deficit for Liu. but still 67 on the table. And it's a fairly tidy table as well. One of the reds fairly close to the side cushion, but there is the opportunity, if he gets the next scoring chance, to significantly dent that lead of Higgins. Well, half a chance. This red is cuttable. It could have been easier than it is. Pretty thin, which makes controlling the cue ball more difficult, obviously. He doesn't like the look of it, does he?
No, the cue ball is part of the problem as well. Even if he does cut it in, where's it going to finish? Wow. I thought that was still going to find a way of just dropping in, but I mean, it's teetering on the brink of going in, isn't it? He overcut it, but just look at this. I felt it would drop this. It refused to do so. Just got to make sure he can get out of there onto a colour. It's so much in the pocket that just getting out onto a colour can sometimes be an issue. Cue ball can trap in the jaws of the pocket as well. I'm sure John will be able to avoid that. And if he does avoid it and gets onto a colour, there's almost certainly going to be another frame going his way. There you see the problem. Yes, he's on the black, but he's not perfectly behind it. And in potting the black, he'll be hitting the other red. So Mark Williams earlier missed one or two blacks to this right corner when not perfectly placed on them. So he doesn't want a repeat of what Mark did. Just one blip in this frame, that red that he felt he couldn't pot without a trace of side, which he missed. There's not much that he's doing wrong, Higgins. It's been overall one of the best displays from John for quite a while. I know we're into a new season, but I think he's going to have to be pleased with the way he's played in these 5 frames so far anyway. Won 4 of them. Missed that, but barring snookers, he's won the frame.
In the frame.
And after some deliberation, Lu Haotian decides it's not worth carrying on. Only 51 left. He was 59 behind. So John Higgins tightens his grip on this first round match here at the Shanghai Masters. Miss pots of significance. The red just now when he hadn't quite got over the winning line, but it didn't prove expensive. And of course the pink
frame 6
in frame 2, which was very tricky. Aside from that, it's been extremely impressive from Higgins. And Zhou Yulong is doing likewise on table 2. You can watch that on Discovery Plus. Zhou threatening a 4-1 lead now over Barry Hawkins. Lu Haotian with it all to do now in this one.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have too many options there that he could really do anything very proactive. John was just looking at the red by the brown to see whether it passed the brown. If it does go cleanly, then he might try and pot it and take the cue ball down off 2 cushions towards the black. I would have thought that Liu Haotian would have checked to see whether the brown went or not. Maybe he felt it was just glued to the red by the brown, you know, they were glued together. Yeah, I mean, we'll never know if it went comfortably or not, because he missed it thin. Oh, that's a very good pot. He's got to back it up now with this black, with an excellent red. He probably felt that taking the cue ball down a little bit meant that he wouldn't leave anything on had he missed it, but he didn't miss it. And now, like I say, if he can get from black to red here, then he gets a chance created out of not very much.
I can tell you that Zhou Yulong did win that 5th frame, so he's extended his lead over Barry Hawkins to 4-1 on table 2. Coverage continues on Discovery Plus. That was well cued because he hasn't had a lot of table time of late, Liu Haotian, and that's the kind of shot that can be missed if you've lost some rhythm in your cueing. But it was clean. Feels like a frame that realistically he's got to win.
Yeah, I think so. 5-1 down, you're not going to see that turned around very often, 1st to 6. But he has made a good start, some good shots in this break already at the early stages of it.
13.
I mean, there have been occasions in the last year or two where John Higgins has not played at his brilliant best, and of course Liu Haotian might have been pinning his hopes on that being the case today, but that's not really been how the match has gone. Higgins has been highly efficient and scoring well. So whichever red of the two that he can get to the right corner here, whether it's the one on the left of the black just above it or the one on the right at the base of the bunch, he's moving a lot of reds and position is not assured. But he has no choice but to play one of them. Got to make sure you don't miss the pot when you're thinking about position on shots like this. It's a very good shot. And that's
17.
excellent.
Outstanding. And he's got the reds where he wants them, but he's overcut the black. Would you believe it, having seemingly done the hard work?
17.
But of course that brilliant split of the reds just increased the pressure on this black because he knew he had to get it. And it's gone astray.
No, that's unbelievable. I'm sure he feels very deflated because the hard work that he'd done, I mean, he turned an absolute nothing opportunity into wonderful chance and misses the black straight away.
Yep.
No emotion from him, but he'll be obviously somewhat crestfallen about that.
Nothing worse than creating a chance with some really excellent snooker and then presenting that opportunity to your opponent, not least given the way Higgins has been queuing in this match. Something of an open goal that Liu Haotian has presented here to the 4 times world champion. He can inflict some real psychological pain by making something sizable here. He's only 9 points behind, reds everywhere. And the chance to go 4 up with 5 to play.
9.
Yes, and of course, as you say, what a chance he's now given John Higgins.
16.
All the hard work has been done prior to him coming to the table, really. Balls have been opened up.
17.
Not sure to get the frame 1 here, but you'd like to think he would come very close to doing so at least.
24.
The red's in the middle of the table. He'll be about 30 in front when they're potted. And then if he can pick off 2 or 3 others, then it will be his frame.
$25. $30. $31.
Higgins acutely aware of the significance of this visit to the table, given how it came about with Liu Haotian having split the reds beautifully, only to miss the black off its spot into the right corner. So he'll be keen to take full advantage of that mistake, compound Liu's frustration by getting enough points at this visit to take that 5-1 lead. That would be, if not unassailable, then would certainly make him red-hot favourite to complete the job.
Yeah, quite nicely played there, because sometimes the cue can end up on the right cushion on that shot from that side, and then the pot's not straightforward, but he's right behind it now. Yeah, playing up the table
46.
low on the blue, so then he can take one of the reds in bulk as he inches closer to another frame. Stun the cue ball somewhere down just past the brown, I think. Yeah. Can he cue it over the green? I think he can. So now he knows that it's just got to somehow get another couple of reds and fairly high value colours. 3 reds
52.
would have been better. And that would certainly secure the frame.
$56. $57.
40 in front, so this green, and the best Lou can do is tie the frame, but he's unlikely to get the chance to do that. Higgins just needs this red then for what would be a very painful steal from Lou's point of view, because
60.
he got in with a great red. He'd split the reds beautifully to give himself the chance to get back into the match. But the black has proved very expensive.
61.
Higgins spotting frame ball and moving 4 up with 5 to play. And at the moment, it's looking very likely that Lou's wait for a first victory over Higgins will be extended. He's lost their previous 3 meetings.
64.
It's going to have to take something truly remarkable to deny Higgins today from this position. And there's
65.
one of those doubles for which this man is famed. One of our Eurosport features is who's the best doubler, and I think everyone agrees Higgins is far and away the best.
Yeah, I mean, you can think of ones that have been very significant. Certainly the one against Mark Allen to clear up at the World Championships, and that double that he
74.
executed in the Masters victory in 2006 to clear up and beat Ronnie O'Sullivan in the decider. That tells you that an important shot sometimes.
77.
The one he made here, he's not going to be that.
$81.
Interestingly, of course, he can't get to 1,000 centuries today now because he can only make 99
86.
here, and if he's only got one more frame to win, so that will have to wait another day. Not that he's too worried,
92.
but we'd quite like to have seen it this afternoon.
It has been
John Higgins,
a display of heavyweight scoring. So Higgins back. Hawkins looking to close to 4-2 behind against Zhou Yulong, and of course you can watch that on Discovery Plus. So John Higgins breaking off in frame 7, the frame he needs to clinch a place in round 2. Just a reminder, the field 24 strong at the start of today. The top 16 in the world, the next 4 highest ranked Chinese players, 4 Chinese wildcards, and the top 8 in that field seeded through to the last 16, the second round. Of course, Mark Allen is the new world #1. Congratulations to him, only the 12th player to achieve that. Very exclusive club, but of course on the wrong end of that extraordinary second round match with Higgins at the Crucible.
That's lovely cueing, and that really is you can make centuries and do all the things John Higgins has done over his career, but knocking those straight ones in, stun run through, that will give him a lot of pleasure, that shot. It'll make him feel that his game is in good stead. A little awkward on the black here, hand on the cushion. Maybe a cannon on a red. To hold for another red. Very good. 2 good shots in a row. And they'll be hoping that he can get this match put away
8.
at this scoring visit without any twists and turns.
Nine. $14. 15.
Now, he might just nudge into the cluster of reds here, not necessarily at any great pace, but just a hold for reds, dismantle a couple. Yeah, that's the kind of pace I expected him to hit into them at. Thankfully, any more pace, from his point of view, would have maybe seen that red go to middle. But he has played well here, John. I mean, you wouldn't have known for sure how he would start the season. Championship League, he didn't win a match in the group that he was in. So, it's a very small sample size, but here in Shanghai in this match, he has looked good. Just using the spider there was meant that he's fallen out of position. He might have stunned the cue ball, queuing down on it there, and never run through off the cushion behind the black as he expected. Usually very good at clenching matches. It's only in the last year or two that Higgins has had problems with that, actually, just getting over the line from very winnable positions. This is a tricky little shot here. Black screwing into reds gently. The pot goes in, but he has lost the cue ball. It might be end of break.
38.
I want to see where his next pot's going to come from.
Meanwhile, Barry Hawkins has stopped the rot against Zhou Yulong, having lost 4 frames in a row. Hawkins has taken the 6th to close to 4-2 behind. Winner of that to play the world champion, Karen Wilson. John Higgins playing safe, having not quite executed that shot with the spider, which is never fun to use, as he wanted, losing position. But it's a handy lead, and of course Liu Haotian is now at a position where he cannot afford any more mistakes.
You mentioned Karen Wilson there. I wonder what kind of season he's going to have, because as world champion for the first time, you can never be sure. It's not always an easy year for a first-time champion, because there's a lot required from the media. Massive fan of Luca Brissell, but it's safe to say he had a pretty abject season, really, on the table. Didn't achieve much at all. Did get to the final here. in Shanghai, but it really did peter out into not much. He'll be back for sure. As for Cairo, and he knows that there are further duties for him to carry out as champion. But I'm sure he'll get a buzz being introduced here in Shanghai as world champion.
One.
Oh dear. Well, hand on the cushion rail, they're not easy, but I thought he'd get it all the same.
As with the previous frame, an excellent pot followed by a mistake to give Higgins this chance. This is not an easy one. That was very well cued, because you could see he was using side on the cue ball, but he struck it perfectly, and this might be the beginning of the end now for Lu Haotian. Higgins already 38 to the good. Plenty of reds available. Just about wriggled the black in.
8. Nine. $16. 17. 24. 25.
Higgins closing in then on a last 16 meeting with Sean Murphy, and what a performance it's been. 126, 73, 135, 58, 92 in the previous frame, and that was the ball he needed in this one, barring snookers. It's been clinical stuff from Higgins. He'll be delighted with the way he's played today.
Yeah, very good. He might even be able to move the other red out here on the left. Oh yes, and
33.
he hasn't necessarily moved it into a much better place than it was already at, but be very interesting if he could get this 3 figures for the 3rd time in the match, given that he is on the brink of 1,000, currently on 998 centuries. Although that shot has gone
78.
a little awkwardly. Mr. Pink like this to the other side earlier in the match. One of the few balls that he has missed today. He's missed that one too, but he's got the job done.
38.
Lu Haotian offers his hand. A clinical display from the 4 times world champion and former Shanghai Masters winner John Higgins, and a big